Hello and welcome to this starter's guide to shmups on Switch. For this video I've chosen 10 shmups that would make a perfect little collection for anyone wondering where to get started. One thing I want to make clear this is not is a top 10 best shmups list. A few reasons for that, one of the main ones being Psycho. There are about a dozen Psycho shmups now available on Switch and most of them are of the highest quality. They would no doubt dominate any top 10. However, starting out, it's better to get a bit of variety, and for that reason I've restricted myself to 2 Psycho games, one from their many vertical scrollers and one from their others. Variety is the name of the game for this list, while of course maintaining a high level of quality. This might not be the literal top 10, but every game on here is cracking good fun and well worth a purchase from anyone looking to pick a shmup to get playing. So, without further ado, let's take a look at our first game. Let's get it out of the way first. Arguably the best, certainly the most widely known shmup available, Ikaruga is a legendary vertical scroller from Treasure. It has an ingenious color change mechanic that ties into its deep scoring system and was previously released on Dreamcast and GameCube. Debates about its exact place in the pantheon of greats will never cease, but it's a must-play if you haven't done so before, and the Switch edition, with its gallery, tate mode support and online leaderboards, makes it worth it even if you do own it elsewhere. Nicalis have more than once teased a physical edition, as yet nothing has been 100% confirmed, but keep your eyes peeled. Essentially developed by a single man, Sunny Tam of Doragon Entertainment, Danmaku Unlimited 3 is a vertically scrolling bullet hell and a masterclass in understated design. The whole game is a screaming refutation of the idea that mobile ports aren't worth your time. It riffs on the classic Graze mechanic while adding enough new elements to never feel derivative. With multiple modes, a pounding soundtrack from Blankfield, and once again, flip grip compatible tate mode, this is another must. Very hard one to categorize. Astebreed is a sometimes hoary, sometimes vert, sometimes rail, sometimes diagonal, if that's a thing, shmup with beautiful visuals and insane barrages of enemies and bullets. If you can follow its story, which is straight out of the 90s anime and not die every 3 seconds, you're better at multitasking than I am. I'll be honest, I didn't really get this at first. Pro tip, play the tutorial and pay attention to it, because there's a lot going on in this one. Once you've got it down though, there are few better games for making you feel like an absolute boss as you blast, slice and bomb your way through waves and waves of enemies. If you're on Twitter, subscribe to Blackbird developer Onion Games' English feed for one of the most adorable and often bizarre feeds on the whole network. Their Switch game Blackbird is about as close to a masterpiece as a 4-stage shooting game about an orphan girl who dies and transforms into a blackbird of destruction, then sets out to take revenge on the inhabitants of the bizarre realm she lived in could ever hope to be. I'll be honest, I didn't like the look of this when I first saw a trailer, but I've never been so happy to be wrong. With echoes of Fantasy Zone or Resogun, this game is a true original with music that matches the gameplay, and it really has to be played to be properly understood. The scoring mechanic is very inventive, very deep, with lots of risk-reward, and it's a game you can't help coming back to over and over again. Maihana Soumakyou is, in my opinion, the most underrated game on this list. Featuring the girls from the Toho series, this is an example of the lesser spotted ballet shmup. After choosing from one of the 3 customizable characters, short levels culminate in a multi-stage boss fight against one of the other girls. Don't be misled by the cutesy characters, this is a game that knows all about the Danmaku, and can easily overwhelm you with elaborate patterns. Lots of extras here with upgrades and power-ups to purchase, galleries and unlockable stages and characters. There's a story and it's bizarre, but it's easy to skip through if you want to just get into the Danmaku, and you will, because this is a lot of fun. Soumakyou have a half dozen vertical shmups on Switch. They are all quality, but for me, Gunbird 2 just pips the others, and if you can only get one, this is your badger. This is pretty much a direct port of the arcade game with none of the bells and whistles of most modern releases. That's a shame, but it doesn't detract from the fact that this is a fast and furious classic arcade shmup from the era when games were out to get you for your 100 yen coins. More accessible and less of a hit on the pocket at home, this is one every self-respecting fan needs to try. Seven versions of 3 games on one cart. The Darius Cozmic collection is only available physically. Classic horizontal shooting featuring fish-based, yes, fish-based enemies. Darius 1 and 2 keep the original arcade's elongated screen setup and have 3 versions each. Darius Gaiden is the third game and probably the most accessible to newcomers, but with the port job handled by the phenomenal M2, quality is assured throughout the whole package. There is an already sold out collector's edition containing even more games and versions available on eBay, but unless you're a serious collector or simply have wads of cash to throw around, you'll want to stick with the standard edition as it's already filled with quality. So far only available in Japan, the Western release of Psyvariar Delta has been delayed so often it's become something of a running joke. If you're interested, and you should be, this is well worth importing as everything's in English anyway. The game is based around a graze mechanic, it has branching paths through the stages, and this edition contains 3 different variations of the main game. Score chasing will provide you with endless hours of play, and you can constantly track your progress on online leaderboards that are different for every setup. The game has been wonderfully supported by the developers with new content being added, and this is a superb package of a superb game. Shikhondo makes this list ahead of many other titles of a similar, maybe even slightly better quality for one reason that's probably already obvious. This is arguably the most visually unique shmup around. Based around monsters from Korean folktales, the painted scroll-style backgrounds are as beautiful as the shape-shifting bosses are terrifying. Soundtrack is not to everyone's tastes, although I personally love it. The game can be a little rough around the edges. Easy to overlook its faults though when it looks this good, and the gameplay, with its graze-based overdrive system, is perfectly solid. It's worth playing for the visuals alone, but regardless of its few faults, it's also a more than serviceable game in its own right. Another Soumakyou game, Zero Gunner 2 is a bit of a different animal from the company's other releases. Not only does the game scroll every which way, it features helicopters which can rotate their direction of fire, and enemies who buzz in from every side of the screen. The controls might be unusual, but it's a classic arcade-style shmup at heart. Visually, it's an odd bird too, with some areas looking nice and crisp, and others, notably any level that features water, looking laughably bad. Very fun game though, and not terribly difficult, so a great entry point for anyone new to the genre. And with very few games similar, it deserves picking up just for the sake of variety. So there you have it. Pick up all of these to get yourself an instant collection of brilliant and varied shmups, or just take your pick of 1 or 2. Either way, you're guaranteed hours of quality shooting. Let me know if you agree with the list. The Switch has become something of a shmup powerhouse, and there are tons of other alternatives. What would you add? And just as importantly, what would you remove to make room? Let us know your ideas, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!